his workshop.
Douglas, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Who are you?
Who am I? Douglas Wesley Pereira.
I know that. But who are you?
I am your husband. I'm a pastor. I'm a father. I'm a Brazilian. I'm a Canadian. I'm a troublemaker.
Yes, I know all that. But who are you really?
Oh, I see what you're getting at. This is one of the most profound questions, Rebecca. Who am I? It haunts many people because so many do not know how to answer it.
For thousands of years, humanity has faced an identity crisis. Who are we? There are many answers to this question. Some contradict each other. Henry Nouwen, a Christian theologian, lists at least 5 identity lies. Do any of these resonate with you? They are: I am what I have. I am what I do. I am what other people say or think of me. I am nothing more than my worst moments, and I'm nothing less than my best moment.
But there's an actual final answer to this question. We do have a true identity. It has been our identity since the beginning. The Bible tells us in Genesis that our identity comes from being created in God's image.
Now, I know that's true. But, Douglas, what does that mean? I've heard a lot of explanations, like it means we can think rationally, have a free will, and have a moral self, like consciousness. But which one explains what it means to be made in God's image?
I hear you. It can be confusing sometimes. None of those explanations give the full meaning. They help us understand a part. Over the next several episodes, beginning today, we will explore what it means to be a prince or princess of God's kingdom, created in His image.
But wait a minute, Douglas. You said we are a princess or prince in God's kingdom. I thought we were talking about being created in God's image. How did you leap to us being royalty?
Well, that's the first part of being in His image that we will discover today. Let's look carefully at Genesis. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animal on earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground." Now, let's compare this passage to another in Genesis. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him in his very image. He named his son Seth. In Genesis 1, God says, "Let us make humans in our image." In Genesis 5, Adam made son in his image. The word in the original Hebrew is the same.
So, in essence, the Bible is telling us that being God's image means, at least in part, that we are His spiritual son or daughter. We are a part of His family, which makes us a prince or a princess in His kingdom.
You got it now.
That makes me think of family trees and genealogy. In chapter 3, Luke lists Jesus' genealogy. He works backwards from Jesus' human father, Joseph. He goes down through the generations, all the way down to Adam. Look at what Luke says at that point. Adam was the Son of God. I'm used to hearing Jesus called the Son of God, but the Bible says that Adam was also the Son of God.
That's right, Rebecca. And since we are all descended from Adam and Eve, that makes us God's sons and daughters as well, royalty in His kingdom.
So, we're told that we are God's children. But what does it mean to be his child?
Well, it is one thing to know what you are, but it's another thing to know what that means. First of all, the term child, son, and daughter are by their nature relational terms. This means we are fundamentally relational. We were created for communion with God and with others.
During our last time together, we learned that God is our creator king. He is transcendent and almighty. But he is also loving, tender, and caring. We are the children of that king. That means we inherited from him dignity and value.
Just as human children grow in their relationship with their parents, we were created to grow in relationship to God. Just as human children grow to resemble their parents, we grow to resemble God according to our relationship with Him. We become more like Him in character and purpose, and we reflect Him to the world.
Just to summarize all of this, we've said that being a child of God means we were designed for relationship with him. It means we have inherent dignity and value. And it means that we were designed to grow in our relationship with him and in our reflection of him.
That's right, Rebecca.
I want to make this more clear though. Let's look at an example of someone who fully lived out their identity as a child of God. It is no surprise that there's only one example we can turn to. That is Jesus. He had a relationship with God and the dignity and respect that being God's child calls for. And he related to others with the respect due to a child of the King. As the Son of God, he gave us a complete picture of what it looks like to be a child of God.
I encourage you to study Jesus' life to get a picture of what being God's child looks like. He had a close relationship with God. He showed us how to relate to others. He always treated people with dignity and uphold their value, even when it was not popular to do so. He fully reflected God's character, heart, and purpose. That is what it means to be in God's image, to be His child.
But as we're all aware, we're not Jesus. We're not sinless or perfect. But Jesus is not only our model for being God's child, He is also our means of becoming God's child. As we've often said during our times together, Jesus shapes us. He restores His image in us. He brings us back to our true identity as princes and princesses of God.
But I have a practical question. How does knowing our true identity impact our lives today?
That is a very good question. First and foremost, since our identity flows from God, then spending time with Him daily is a must. We need to know Him, His character, His heart, and His purpose for our lives. Our relationship with Him empowers us to live as His children.
And we must remember that we are His children, and so are they, whoever they may be. I am God's child, and so is the next person. We must relate to others as though they carry God's imprint too, because they do. We cannot let any other distinction determine how we relate to people. In the words of Philip Yancey, we must remember that every human being, no matter how broken or sinful, bears the stamp of the Creator and has intrinsic worth. We must bear in mind what C.S. Lewis said. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. It is immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, exploit. immortal horrors or everlasting splendors. Being a child of God, a child of the King, gives each of us beauty, meaning, and purpose. And it very practically guides the way we live.
But there are more aspects to being created in God's image, aren't there?
Oh, yes. Next time, we'll look at another one that is often misunderstood.
In the meantime, let's prayerfully consider our key questions. What is God doing in my life? Do I have the courage to be a part of His work? Am I truly willing to join Him in His work of redemption in my life and all around me?